Hi guys, and welcome to episode 13 of the Health as Well podcast. And yeah, 13 episodes now, so it's growing, which is awesome. And just to let you know, tomorrow marks 12 years of evidence-based coaching. So it's evidence-based coaching's anniversary tomorrow, so I'm excited for that. And now today we're going to be discussing NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So, and why it's crucial that we increase our NEAT, and basically what NEAT is everything outside of exercise in a sense, fidgeting, walking. A lot of you guys are very sedentary, working behind a desk most of the day. And I know we constantly bang on about getting your steps in and getting them steps up, and it's for a reason. Because believe it or not, NEAT is very important. We burn more calories outside of the gym, outside of exercise by increasing this. And I know some of you have got like 10,000 steps in, some have got 7, 8, etc. And the story behind 10,000 steps is that over a week of 70,000 steps, it burns 3,500 calories, and 3,500 calories is the equivalent to 1 pound of body fat. I'm correct there, aren't I, guys? So let's get into it. And what I'd like to discuss now with the other coaches, Greg, Gary, and John, is how can we increase our NEAT? And what do you guys do to increase your NEAT? Let's start with John on the left.
Yeah, for me, it started with just the little things. I made a promise to myself to begin associate pacing with talking on the phone. So my career is very talky, right? I'm on the phone quite often, and it's constant conversation with someone, and I began just associating. Okay, as soon as I get on the phone, that's my cue to stand up and start pacing around. And I found that just doing that alone was it substantially improved my ability to stand up and sit down. Right, so I think that is something we don't talk about enough in general. In fitness is as we get older, right? You get locked into these sitting positions, and the ability to get up. If you ever seen a person who's 67 years old getting up out of their chair is difficult, right? And depending on who they are, and as we age, it's important to keep that moving as well. So these like little simple things, we can talk about parking at the other end of the parking lot. We can talk about taking an extra flight of stairs rather than the elevator. But I found it's not even so much about, gosh, I really want to hit X amount of steps in a day. Just keeping the joints moving and keeping muscle and digestion working appropriately is all kind of tied into that additional movement.
Yeah, excellent, John. And what I feel that I feel the steps is the easiest way to increase the NEAT. I don't know what you guys think, but it's a more sustainable way to increase NEAT. It helps speed up the fat loss, insulin sensitivity, cardiovascular health, and it's really good for stress as well. Walking is really good for stress, like John mentioned as well. Also, improving recovery, especially for high achievers, And so Gary, what practices do you have in place that, you feel will help the guys moving forward?
Yeah. So as John said, with parking away from the shopping centre can absolutely help. But I think sometimes we overlook the day-to-day things. So one thing I like to do as well in the gym in between sets. So say 60 seconds, I will, leave the water bottle beside her, pop the towel on the machine and just do that lap of a circuit or up and down and stuff like that you don't think adds up. It's so easy to overlook that and think it doesn't make much of a difference, but it absolutely does, you know. Um, in combination with that, I saw John put in the group the walking pads. That's an absolute game changer. So if you can do any kind of admin work, if you have a home office or you have access to a walking pad, just doing some low hanging tasks, whether it's emails or anything that doesn't require much sit down and focus. It's a sure way of racking them up. And I think
Yeah.
when you understand the importance of a knee from a fat loss perspective, so on a BMR, your basic metabolic rate, it contributes more from a fat loss than it does from exercise activity. So the exercise you burn in the gym is less than the actual steps. So as you said, setting a step target is key, and what gets tracked gets what measured. So by setting a standard, absolutely helps.
Yeah, and this is this is why we recommend the trackers. Yeah, and I know it's great like having it on a phone on a mobile device, but I used to do it myself, and I'd guarantee I'd leave my phone on the desk, or I would leave it somewhere, like maybe it's in my pocket and hang my coat up, or something. I always, we always say to clients, getting something that's affordable, like a Fitbit, is less than an Apple Watch, and an Oura Ring is even less than an Apple Watch. And these are all great devices, especially the Oura Ring when it comes to everything else. For one thing, I don't tend to like wearing a watch for bed myself. I prefer to use the ring, which it tracks our sleep as well. Heart rate variability, one of the key metrics that everyone should be tracking, and a whole load of other things. So, Greg,
Yeah,
um,
so I mean, I would say that this is actually an area that I have struggled with and kind of continue to struggle with in the sense that if I'm not conscious of it, like in a given day, I can do like 2,000 steps. I don't know, like 1,500 steps, just because between getting to my car, commuting to work, being at my desk or being in conference rooms for meetings, walking back to my car, coming home and then just, doing stuff around the house or getting back on the computer for various reasons, like it just doesn't really add up to a whole lot. And so I've had to like very consciously try to do some of the stuff that these guys are talking about in terms of either if there's certain things that I can do for work where I'm talking to someone, but I don't need to be in front of the computer doing more of like the walking meeting, if you will, right? So it's a nice thing with like a coworker. A lot of times people are like very happy to just get outside the office for a little bit, if you're having a meeting where you don't need to be in front of a whiteboard or something like that and just say, hey, what if we just like go for a walk for the next, 20 minutes or something like that instead of just sitting here in a room? So there's like that kind of stuff that you can do. Certainly if it's a phone call, if you, as long as there's not too much background noise, in terms of like whatever environment you're in, such that it would like get distracting. So like there's that kind of stuff that I've done. To John's point, in terms of like the walking pad, I will say it's like sort of like a little bit mixed, but I did get a low standing kind of treadmill at work. So I have kind of a quote unquote walking desk kind of set up now at work. That works well to Gary's point in terms of like if you're in a meeting or alternatively you're just like kind of reading email or you're kind of trying to read something. If you're trying to like type or do a spreadsheet or do anything that requires like a reasonable amount of coordination, like walking and doing that at the same time can get a little bit tricky. But like regardless, you can still get like these little bursts of, 15 or however many minutes, throughout the day that way, but still be at your desk and still be, kind of doing work. And then to Gary's point, like, I have found that just doing while I'm at the gym, just like trying to utilize that time, whether it's in between sets or, whatever, to just like keep moving the whole time as opposed to just like, well, I'm just going to sit here on this machine, for the next, minute while I'm, waiting for the next set as an example. So all of those things add up. The other thing which I would just quickly mention is that some of you may know that I'm a runner, so I've been doing a lot of like kind of running type stuff. And as you think about that relative to weight loss, like it goes back to what Craig was saying, which is it depends on what it is that you're trying to burn. And I think a lot of times people will say like, oh, like go for a run, it's going to burn tons of calories, things like that. That is true, but if you're trying to burn fat in particular, like the body like burns fat at like typically much lower heart rates than you would as a runner, right? So people talk a lot about zone two running, for example, like being really great. It is, but the reason for that is that you're keeping your heart rate below the threshold through which like you're burning fat as opposed to immediately going to carbs or other, or even muscle for that matter, like within your body. So like if your goal is to burn fat, you're way better off staying in zone one or two. And if you're trying to stay in the zone one or two, you're either walking or you're like running pretty slow, I mean, more or less, and so anyway, so it's just something to like think about in that regard in terms of like your goals. Like clearly if there's other cardiovascular things that you're trying to do or whatever, like running's great. I like it personally and so on. But like it's actually not the best thing with respect to trying to burn fat, kind of within your body. So just keep that in mind as well.
And Greg, it was when you said I'm not someone who gets a lot of steps in a day, I was trying to process that between the amount of running you do and
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, sorry. Just to be clear, I end up getting plenty of steps in the
right,
aggregate, but it's because of workouts that I do, not because of like, just, steps throughout the rest of my day.
Excellent. Thanks, Greg. That's great. And you stole my part, about the walking. We dipping into the fat stores more than, when it comes to running, cycling, etc. So, and so something else that Greg mentions as well, which I find is great, and that's in between sets in the gym. I can, in between sets in the gym, pacing up and down, just make sure you leave your bottle or something on the machine or someone will pinch it. And just like that really adds up. It really does. But a lot of what I find is going for a walk, especially after meals, it really helps speed up the digestion, you know, which is something we can get into on another podcast, But and the same like with the pads, the walking pads, or should we say treadmills, whatever you want to call them. Like I feel that they are really good and beneficial, especially at this time of year, because USA. I know talking to other clients like Brian, who's in like Texas, and other guy where the wet, and even John, where John is now. The weather's atrocious. It's that cold that it's hard to get out and go for a walk. And this is where the pads will come in to really help. And another thing, like just to top it off, is try and get it scheduled, even into your calendar, because this is really going to help speed up the process when it comes, if your goal is fat loss, is to lose weight, getting them walks in is crucial. And the same as Greg mentioned about, like myself, if I didn't go for a walk, like I'm stood, other than going to the gym, I'm sat or stood behind this desk all day. sometimes till 9, 10 o'clock at night. And if I didn't get out and go for a walk, I'd probably struggle to get more than 2,000, 2,500 steps, you know. But incorporating things like John said and Gary, like walking meetings and getting people involved as well on a weekend. Even when you're doing yard work on a weekend, it's still all steps. You're taking the family out, going for a walk with a family, going hiking, anything, but being consistent with it. You know, you've got to be consistent as well. Anything else you want to cover, John?
I think for me, one of the other, walking pads and devices are great as well. But nothing beats, some good fresh air and sunshine, right? So,
Yeah.
even with, it's very easy to say, no, I don't want to go outside. Especially like right now, it's like zero, it's like 5 degrees at my house, and we have an accumulation of like an insane amount of snow outside, and so it's crazy. But there's like a moment of the day where I say, okay, I'm going to go out for a walk no matter what, right? I'm still going to go outside, and I'm still, you're still going to enjoy, really, back to what Greg has said so many times. I get to do it, right? I get to go out and enjoy, the cold weather,
Yeah.
and that really is pretty powerful in itself. So even if it's 10 minutes outside, even if it's freezing, even if there's 50 feet of snow on the ground, right? Um, uh, still finding that moment to get some fresh air is super critical as well, I think.
Yeah, excellent, John. And Gary, anything else to cover? This is going to be quite a short podcast, but we wanted to coincide it with the challenge, because not just that. The reason why we do these simpler challenges like the steps and things is because they're a lot easier, and plus they're going to benefit you guys on this journey.
Yeah, so I think as well, something that works really, really well is, let's say you have an hour time slot in the gym, and on average the workout takes, 40 minutes. But obviously we have all in the program that, 10-minute minimum kind of warm up. So making sure you're using that time effectively, even 10, 15 minutes walk on treadmill before the workout. And what I like to do is familiarize myself with the workout and know exactly, okay, what I'm going to do, what's the setup of the workout, just kind of get yourself in the zone. So then 15 minutes before, kind of get a bit of a sweat on, get the heart rate up, and you'll find then going into the workout is a lot easier. And like that, 15 minutes walking on treadmill at a decent enough pace, you probably rack up 2,000 steps, So if your goal's 10K and you're falling short on a daily basis, by just implementing that 15-minute strategy, we'll hit the target. So that can work wonders as well as, and then when you're doing the workout, as Greg said, as I said, as the rest of the coaches said, just walking in between the sets. So, that can really rack up steps.
Anything else, Greg?
Yeah, maybe just a couple of quick thoughts. I mean, one is probably not a topic for today, but in terms of circadian rhythm and like sleep and that kind of thing, like one of the things that people like really point towards is getting outside and having exposure to direct sunlight within, 30-ish minutes, of when you wake up. It kind of really helps kind of lock in that kind of sleep rhythm and things like that. So to the extent that you can do that and, get steps in and stuff like that, there's definitely, kind of multiple benefits to some of the stuff in addition to digestion and other things. The and then, yeah, I would also just sort of say, I mean, having been with Craig in Boston, for example, like he was constantly on the move, like, we would be waiting in line to get into a restaurant or something like that. And like, Craig was like going around the block and, stuff like that. So there's always just like little opportunities, I would say, to, kind of sneak in movement, if you will, kind of throughout your day. Even if, if you're at the airport, if you travel all the time, right, rather than just sitting at the gate, like waiting for your flight, like doing a couple of laps through the terminal and, kind of getting some movement in. There's just like lots of little opportunities like that that you can look for. Just be kind of in the habit of just moving around, moving your body, right? You know, like that sort of a thing. And so just also making it fun as well. I mean, like if you're into podcasts, audiobooks, you know, whatever, I feel like sometimes in the past what held me back is like I'm like, well, I'm gonna go for a 30-minute walk and it feels like a waste of time or I'm just checking a box versus like if I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast or something like that that feels relevant for work or personal development or just enjoyment, then, you know, it's more just like, well, I'm listening to this book and I happen to be going for a walk, you know, at the same time. So, I mean, like, look for ways to just like make it fun and, you know, contribute to other stuff that you care about, you know, kind of in your life, as opposed to it just being like a chore or, you know, something that you like have to go do. So,
Excellent. That's great, Greg. Thanks a lot. And I think that's a wrap, is it? Yeah. John, anything else? Anything else, guys? So yeah, guys, let's try and make this a big focus, you know, to get them steps in. I'm always conscious that I don't want to get them last 2,000 steps at the end of the night before I go to bed and pacing up and down the living room or dining room floor. So just try and get periods through, you know, make time throughout the day to get the steps in. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. And again, as usual, if you can think of anything that you want covering, we will cover it. No problem at all. Just let us know. You can message any of us anytime. And if there's anything that you feel you want to know more about, but it also helps us as well. You know, a lot of the, like with these podcasts, we don't basically, we don't have a script. We just come in, we discuss beforehand what we're going to be discussing, but we don't go off a script. We feel that it works better like that, but we also need your input, guys, as well. Okay? Anyway, have a great day and see you in the next one.